Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. You're watching the Newsnight and I'm Deepti Sachdeva. The question that everyone is asking tonight and the question that we want to answer and put our focus on is that where is Iran's uranium? Iran has a lot of enriched uranium, but where is that uranium tonight as we speak? Remember, there is about 400 kilograms of enriched uranium. Look at the numbers carefully. 400 kilograms of enriched uranium vanishes. We don't know where. 400 kilogram, in fact, is what has been actually put out by a report by the IAEA. Now, after the US airstrikes targeted Iran's nuclear sites, there is an intel report that the now indication is that this program is only temporarily disrupted, perhaps just by a few months, but it has not been dismantled. But Donald Trump today uses a word where he says obliterated. He says we have obliterated Iran's nuclear program. Who's lying? Who's speaking the truth? And Trump has also warned Iran. Do you know what Trump says? He says, don't even think of rebuilding your nukes. Now, when you look at everything that is going on, Donald Trump, in his own Trumpian style and his own Trumpian world, will say that the intel report that apparently is a leaked report that has come in from the Pentagon, he says that is fake news. Fake news, nothing like this. But then you also have the US's Vice President, J.D. Vance, who hints that the uranium may have survived the strikes. He says this. So I'm just helping you understand the different versions that have come in on the story and the question that where is the uranium? And now you have a bombshell, quite literally, that has come in from the IAEA. That is the nuclear watchdog. What do they say? We are putting out those quotes also on your screens because the IAEA now says we do not know where it is. So the nuclear watchdog says we do not know where Iran's missing uranium is. Donald Trump says we've obliterated it. So is Iran hiding that nuclear core? Was the strike a misfire? Has the countdown to a nuclear crisis just gotten restarted? What did the US really achieve? Is Iran closer to the bomb than ever? And you know what is the biggest question tonight? That who today is in control of the truth? Who's speaking the truth? Who's lying? Even as that story continues to develop, let's quickly get you breaking updates on this story and where is this missing uranium. The first big update is the reaction that we've heard from Donald Trump a little while earlier. He, remember, is participating in the NATO summit and he's been repeatedly asked that question, where are the missing Iranian nukes? Listen into what he said.
As you know, last weekend, the United States successfully carried out a massive precision strike on Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities, and it was very, very successful. It was called obliteration. Not only have we dealt decisively with the critical threat of Iran's nuclear program, but we've also reasserted the credibility of American deterrence, which is like no other.
The next big breaking update is about the other player in this entire story. That is Benjamin Netanyahu. What does he say? What does he say about these nukes? He, remember, says that the devastating US strike on Fordo have destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered this enrichment facility completely inoperable. So you have almost similar remarks that have come in both from the US and from Israel. But what does Iran say on all this? Let's get you our next breaking update now. And this is about what the Iranian parliament earlier has done. These are images of a little while earlier today. You see most of their MPs there, and this is a moment when they were passing a resolution to suspend the ties with the IAEA. Now that, remember, is the nuclear watchdog, and Iran says we don't want to have anything with the IAEA. This will mean that we will never know where this missing uranium is. This will also mean that there will be no surveillance, there will be no monitoring. What else? I'm just going to tell you that in a moment. But let's also move on to recap important points on this story before we tell you more of where this uranium could be. What is this enriched uranium? How can it be transported? What do these satellite images actually tell us? Now remember, there is a report that apparently is a leaked report by the Pentagon itself, and this is what it says. It says the strikes have set back the program only by months. Not me saying this, not anyone else. This is a leaked intel report. This is a report that goes on to also talk of the fact that most of the damage was above the ground. So if you realize these 3 nuclear sites that were hit, the report is trying to tell us that most of the damage was above the ground. And when you look at the nuclear facilities, that is much beneath the ground surface. So does this mean that the lower structures of the nuke sites are intact? We do not know. But then you have Trump. Trump says that all this that you're reading on your screens is nothing but a part of fake news. He uses the word obliteration. He says all these sites have been obliterated. In fact, we'll quickly change this to more updates that have come in as far as all these important characters are concerned. What has Donald Trump said? That's going to play out on your screens. Also, what has J.D. Vance said? He apparently has also been speaking to a lot of media outlets, and that is where he says, we do not know. We do not know whether that uranium has been destroyed or not. But what Donald Trump says, he says Iran's nuclear material is not removed. It has not been transported from Fordo to anywhere else. Nuke material has been destroyed in the strikes. Says who? Says Donald Trump. Let's bring up J.D. Vance now, the vice president, who, like I also said, has been giving multiple interviews. Look at what he says. He says 400 kilogram of uranium unaccounted post the strike. It is unaccounted. We do not know where it is. Has it been destroyed? Again, no idea. But then there is also a response that has come in from the nuclear watchdog. The nuclear watchdog continues to maintain it's too early to have reliable data, but they also are insisting in the same breath that we have no idea of where this material is. Also, there is a conversation about the role of the nuclear watchdog. Let's play out the response we've gotten from the IAEA as they've been speaking about this, and they say that we are concerned about this missing uranium and where actually it is.
I had received a letter from the Iranian foreign minister saying that they had taken protective measures already. They did not get into details into what that meant, but clearly that was the implicit meaning of that. So we can imagine that this material is there. So for that to confirm, for the whole situation to evaluate, we need to return.
So you heard the IAEA for the moment not in the loop about where is this missing uranium. But let's get you more details on what has happened, and we'll quickly rewind to how the story has moved. And all this, remember, is very, very important for you to understand and answer the question, where is the uranium? Now, there were key Iranian nuclear sites that were wiped out. That was the claim, and that is why we've today put out a question mark, because we do not know whether that was a claim or that is just a truth. Now, the Fordo nuclear site is something that enriches uranium to high purity levels so that it actually becomes possible to turn this to a nuke weapon. Also, here is where this is a key site for Iran's nuclear breakout potential. We have seen strikes here. We've seen those images. I'm going to bring those images also in just a moment. But let's get you details of the other site that has also been hit. That is the Natanz nuclear facility. This is built again deep underground for protection. The idea is that no amount of missiles, no bunkers, nothing can target these facilities. And also it's the main centrifuge assembly and enrichment hub. All these hubs have been targeted in the strikes, but what is the extent of the damage? We still do not know. These are still early days. Also at the Natanz nuclear facility, this was targeted before also in cyber and in explosive attacks, but we haven't seen much of a damage being done even then. Likewise, this is central to Iran's uranium stockpile operations. Iran, remember, has been on this road to building this nuke program, something that has bothered the world, rightfully so, considering that you have seen Iran as a rogue nation. The charge is that it possibly can drop that nuke bomb as and when it pleases. Likewise, the other facility that was hit was the Fan nuclear facility, where this contains uranium conversion and fuel production. So you're looking at separate facilities, separate targets that were being achieved at all these facilities. It is also a critical step before you have enrichment process that begins. And the claim again and again is that all these facilities have been hit, and Donald Trump says that everything has been obliterated. But I also now want to zoom in and we want to look at Fordo. What happened at that nuclear site? What happened at that particular place? Now these are, remember, satellite images that have come in from Maxa. This is before and this is after. So we'll go into the before section here. If you look at this very clearly, you don't see any kind of damage. It is a top aerial view of the facility. You can't see it above the ground because clearly it is deep inside. But then when you move and you look at the after images, you see at least 6 holes. You will see 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, and this is an indication of the kind of damage possibly that it might have sustained. So this is the only proof that tells us that this is a facility that was struck. Then there is another image of the trucks. Remember, a lot of chatter happened about these mystery trucks. If you look at this, and this is a zoom in image of this, and we are just counting the number of vehicles that you see there on the road. If you keep counting right from a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it's a long road of vehicles almost throughout the entire area. And this tells you that there were at least 16 vehicles parked at that facility before the strike happened. And that is why, when you connect the dots, the question being asked is, that was the US fooled by Iran? Were they able to pick up and move most of their uranium before US even struck? US says absolutely not. They say every bit of their facility has been obliterated, is the big claim that Donald Trump has made. He's linked this to the strikes in Hiroshima also. That is the scale to which Donald Trump has really spoken about this. But what is the mystery of these 16 vehicles? Is it possible to transport uranium like this from one place to the other, and where exactly could that uranium be? I think these are all important questions, and to answer these questions, to understand this issue, I also want to get in 2 of our guests who are joining us, and let me introduce Shukriya Brothers, who's a foreign policy and security expert at the Middle East. Shukriya, thank you so much for your time here on NDTV. And also Avner Cohen, who's a professor of non-proliferation and terrorism studies. Avner, thank you also for your time as you join us on NDTV. Avner, my first question is to you. Where is this missing enriched uranium? About 400 kilograms. When you see the entire story, you see these images, Avner. What is your assessment?
I think the straight and the honest answer is we do not know. And I believe that this is the case not just with us, people who are dealing, research from the public domain, but most likely also people from the intelligence community, including the Israel and the United States. Essentially, what they have is, detailed satellites, perhaps with excellent resolution and geological understanding of what will happen to the soil, to the ground, and the like. So there could be speculation. The real question is, to what extent the assembly hall has collapsed there or it's survived. It's very, very deep. And I think the answer is we do not know. We see these penetrations and we do not know. We also do not know, at least us in the public domain, how much material, not just the fission material, but also the centrifuge themselves, the machine, were taken out before the bombing. One would expect that would be 24 hours surveillance from the sky by satellites. I'm surprised that Israel did not bomb those 16 at least trucks sitting there waiting for their line to carry out some stuff. I think it's not even clear. We do know, or there is a strong speculation that the Iranian filled the entrance to the Fordo with a great deal of dirt and sand and the like. Those kind of bombs create a lot of poisonous gases. So it's not even clear whether human beings, Iranians, were able to get in, to remove those blocks and to get in and to know what's the situation outside. So it may be the case even that the Iranians do not fully know what happened to their own facilities.
Okay, I think these are very, very critical points, Avner, that you have raised, and clearly, like you said, the answer is we do not know. We do not know anything yet about that missing uranium. Just allow me a moment, Avner, as we'll expand the story and we'll look at where possibly could be Iran's uranium. Now, again, these are details that we've been able to gather, keeping in mind the history, the topography, and what we've heard from sources. I'm looking at three options. Where possibly could Iran's uranium be? Remember, the first option that you see on your screens is Kerman's Pickaxe Mountain. What is special about this? Why could the uranium have been shifted here? The answer is that these are fortified tunnels. It has zero international oversight. There is no one to monitor this, and these are tunnels that you actually cannot even get access to, which makes it an ideal place to park your uranium. The other place is the IRGC bunkers. This is in central Iran. Remember, Iran is huge. The vastness is huge, and it has a lot of uranium even otherwise. This could be a stockpile split across the sites. It is harder to strike. Again, this is very well fortified, and it is impossible to trace because such are these bunkers that it is very difficult for anyone to penetrate. Could that enriched uranium have been moved here? Or the third option is that this could still be at Fordo. Who knows? Now, this is quite deep into the ground there. It could have survived the bombing. Like I said, this is all a likely scenario. It could be hidden in hardened walls, which makes it difficult for even the stealth bomber to have dropped that GBU-57 bomb to be able to hit at the nukes. Is this something that has happened? We do not know. But interestingly, the question is, and look at these numbers are staggering. 400 kilogram is point number one. This is enriched. This is point number two. Enrichment means that it is getting closer and it could be developed to a nuke. It is missing. That is most important. The nuclear trail has just gone cold. We don't have answers. But interestingly today, you had an image that played out in the Iranian parliament. And we'll bring up those graphics for us now to talk about. This is the fallout that possibly could have happened between the IAEA and Iran. Now, Iran has said we have nothing to do with the IAEA anymore. We are walking out. Whether they'll walk out of the NPT, no one knows. But we'll get those graphics on our screens. And before we do that, we can go back to both Anver and to Shukriya. And I'll go to Anver first for another quick comment. Anver, we are looking at three possible places where this uranium could have, been parked right now. But is it so easy for the uranium and the one that is enriched to be transported from place A to B in those vehicles, in those trucks that we have seen? Anver?
Yeah, who the question is towards?
Yes, Anver, that question is for you.
Okay, so all those possibilities exist unless there was, as I mentioned before, unless there was a 24-hour surveillance of those trucks, which technically it's possible, where they went to and who took care of them. As you said, Iran is full of mountains. There is a lot of tunnels, some of them human-made, some of them nature-made, some of them were elaborated. The answer is, and as you pointed out correctly, the future relationship between Iran and the IAEA is unclear. There is actually a proposal on the table at the Iranian parliament to leave the NPT and to end relationship with the IAEA. So they have not really reported. I think that Grossi said that on the June 13, he was told they're likely to be taken elsewhere. This was it. So it's a great mystery.
Okay, you think it's a great mystery. Let me also get in Shukriya exactly on this point, and we'll have also on the screens now. Shukriya, it's an important but, such a curious story. It's a concerning story. How do you see all these developments and the kind of remarks that have come in?
It's a really tough answer for this question because, as you said, each side have a different answer. The reason Trump says that they destroy nuclear program because that's the Trump's goal to have this achievement and bring it as the way he bring it during the NATO summit and talking about how the other administration or president couldn't deal with finishing the Iranian nuclear program, and I did it. So it's been more personal achievement, but how this, as you said, where is that 400 kilogram of the uranium, enriched uranium? No one's know exact answer. We have to wait to see when that's down and the real answer and what happened, because now Trump's trying to use Israel's intelligence information posted and said, okay, that's not just my word, that's the intelligence of Israel's too. They say that they checked and there is no remaining of this program.
Okay, so clearly no one knows where is this uranium, and I think that does raises a lot of concerns anyways. But I think both of our guests today have spoken of a very important point, that is uranium that is enriched. But what is uranium enrichment? I think this is a good point to help our viewers understand what is this all about? What is uranium enrichment? Remember, there are varieties of uranium. There are 3 varieties or isotopes of the natural uranium. What are these? This is U-234, that is uranium-234, uranium-235 and uranium-238. Then we'll bring up our next slide as the story will move about uranium enrichment. U-235 is the most suitable for nuclear uses. If you want to make a weapon, you clearly need uranium-235. Natural uranium, remember, contains only 0.7% of uranium-235. And that is why it is important you go in for enrichment. Uranium-235 concentration is increased exactly by enrichment, and this is the only way it can become capable. The higher the enrichment, you see a more powerful nuke being constructed accordingly. Now, U-235 concentration is enriched below 20%. And the uranium, remember, that you're talking about from Iran, that has gone missing, about 400 kilograms. Estimates say that this was about 60% enriched. And as you continue to see these details on your screens, it is also used as a fuel in the nuclear reactors. The Ferdo site, again, was a site for nuclear enrichment. This is where that isotope was actually converted further for enrichment for a nuclear weapon, and U-235 concentration is enriched over 20%. And these are again important details to help you understand that how do you have the uranium isotopes that are used to make nuclear weapons. Likewise, the natural uranium, that is U-238, is fed into the facility, and this is where the enrichment begins, and we'll quickly get in more details. Again, this is U-235 extracted and the proportion is increased, and that is exactly how you develop uranium that is enriched to modify into a nuclear weapon. But when you talk of Iran and you talk of the nuke programs, this is not the first time. Iran has a long history of these nuclear weapons. We'll bring up that timeline before I go back to our guests for their quick comments here. We go back to 2018. These are developments that have been captured since that year, where pre-2019 they adhered to the nuclear deal limits. They enriched uranium at a 3.67%. Remember, there are guidelines. You need to be signatories to treaties. Then in 2019, they incrementally violate the nuclear deal restrictions and they continue that uranium enrichment. And this was the first sign that helped you understand that something is going awry. Likewise, in 2020, they began growing a stockpile in their production of 4.5% enriched uranium. So from a 3.67, they go to a 4.5. They obviously are increasing the scale of that enrichment. Then in 2021 is where the nuclear watchdog monitoring gets weakened. They enriched uranium now to a 20% and a 60%. That is how far Iran really went, and you had world capitals raising concern. Likewise, in 2022, they began growing a 60% enriched uranium stockpile, and they announced this to the world that we are doing this. You had very sharp reactions that came in from the US, from Israel in particular. And in 2023, this is an important year for you to remember, the nuclear watchdog that finds traces of 83.7% uranium enrichment. So look at this, the higher the enrichment, the closer you're getting to developing a nuke. So they reached a point of 83.7%. Iran claimed have not enriched uranium over 60%, is what Iran was saying. But the nuclear watchdog, upon its inspections, upon its tests, believed that this had crossed the 83% mark. Then in 2024, the stockpile of 60% enrichment happened and the capacity also began to grow substantially, raising a lot of concerns. In 2025, again, you had the IAEA, that's the nuclear watchdog, putting out a report, and look at what they say. Because this was used as a huge trigger by Israel, particularly, IAEA said enough material for at least 10 nuclear bombs. The nuclear watchdog claims that Iran had enough material for at least 10 nuclear bombs, and if it is further enriched to a 90%, that could be very, very critical. And this is where things changed. I want to go back to both Anver and to Shukriya. Anver, to you first. You know, we have been looking at this entire nuclear timeline of Iran. What should the world today be doing? Is this really the end of the war, or this is just the beginning of a lot more problems that have become even more closer? Because no one can now know and track where this missing uranium is.
Well, it's definitely not simply the end of the war, period. There are a lot of issues outstanding and pending and waiting for some kind of resolution, either by agreement or possibly even by some further hostile and kinetic action. I want to add one more thing to what you've said, and all what you've said is fair and correct. All what you said is based on declaration and statement that Iran gave to the IAEA, and the IAEA was able to verify. A lot of people believe that Iran might have other elements of its nuclear program which have not been declared, that is to say, some elements of enrichment, centrifuge that were elsewhere, that were never reported, that are a kind of backup or emergency. So you know, all these alarmist considerations are based on what we know and has been verified. Could be some more stuff. And given the fact that Iran has a record of deceptions and not providing, likely to believe that this is not the end of the story. There is more facts that we do not know.
Okay, you believe clearly there are more facts and we do not know them. Now, Donald Trump says obliteration. That's the word, Shukriya, that he has used. But tell me something, with the Iranian parliament, passing that bill to suspend the ties with the IAEA, we do not know whether, Iran next is going to threaten to walk out of the NPT. Now, these are huge steps. These are huge decisions. Is the world prepared for this? How do you see it?
Definitely. What we've seen is making us to believe that Iranian regime is not going to give up on its nuclear program for building the weapon. The reason is they have seen the result of not having a nuclear bomb. Now they are hardliner or they supporter of the regime. They're pushing for that. The regime has to have this nuclear, because look at the North Korean. There's example, they taking the North Korea as example. They say the reason they haven't been able to attack North Korea because North Korea has a nuclear bomb. And that's why they say, okay, what happened to Saddam, to Gaddafi in Libya? The reason is because they didn't have the bomb. So for sure, from now, we will see Iranian regime pushing for building that nuclear, but how they can do it based on what Israel have access to all the intelligence information inside the country, it wouldn't be easy, because we know when Israel started striking on Iran, they had information that Iranian are trying to build the nuclear bomb. So the way Israel shows us, they have access inside of Iran in the high level of the commander, of the military commander. It tells us Israel have access and they know what Iranian doing.
All right, so where is this missing uranium and where is the supreme leader of Iran? We don't even have an answer to that question. But Anver and Shukriya, I'm thanking both of you for joining us as we also wrap things in this edition of the Newsnight, but with the promise that NDTV will continue to keep you on top of the story. Thank you for watching. Good night.